I'm not asking for sympathy. I just want to know, would you have believed me if I told you the man you trusted most was living two lives at once? Would people call you paranoid, bitter, dramatic? Because that's what everyone told me. That's what he wanted me to believe. It was supposed to be another business trip. That's what he told me. Suitcase in hand, the same quick kiss at the door, the same promise to call when he landed. But something in his voice felt off this time. Too rehearsed, too careful. So I followed him. Not at first. At first I told myself I was crazy for even thinking it. But when he drove past the airport exit without slowing, my chest tightened. When he kept going, 2 towns over, my hands shook on the wheel. And then I saw it. A quiet suburban street, houses lined with trimmed hedges and bicycles in driveways. He pulled up to a pale blue house, parked, and got out, like he belonged there. The door flew open. 2 children burst out, running toward him with squeals of, "Daddy!" He scooped them up with the kind of joy I hadn't seen in years. And then she appeared. A woman, smiling like her whole world had just walked through the door. She kissed him like he was hers, like I didn't exist. I sat frozen in my car, every bone in my body telling me to get out, scream, demand answers. But all I could do was watch as the man I thought I knew became a stranger before my eyes. That was the moment my marriage ended, though I didn't know it yet. My name is Emily, and for 10 years I thought I was a wife, not a placeholder. I thought I had built a life with a man who was mine, a marriage that was steady, ordinary, and safe. I met David in my mid-20s. He swept in like a storm I didn't know I needed. Charming, ambitious, protective, in a way that made me feel seen after years of failed relationships. Within a year, we were married. By 30, I had 2 kids and a home that felt like the foundation of everything I'd ever dreamed about. Our love story wasn't perfect, but it was real, or at least I thought it was. There were family vacations with sticky ice cream hands and sandy car rides, anniversaries spent at the same quiet Italian restaurant, nights where he fell asleep on the couch with our daughter curled against his chest, all those small moments that stack together and trick you into thinking you're safe. And David seemed like the kind of man you could depend on. He was always working, always chasing the next deal, the next client, the next promotion. He said he wanted to give us everything he never had. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The only shadow in our marriage came from the thing I was too quick to excuse: the business trips. At first, they were occasional. Weekends away, conferences, client dinners. But gradually they became routine, as predictable as the weather. He always had a reason, always a place he had to be. And I trusted him because that's what wives are supposed to do. Sure, there were moments I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why he felt so far away even when he was next to me. But I pushed the unease down, told myself I was overthinking. After all, he always came home, and I thought home was with me. It started small, the way cracks always do. A receipt slipped into the laundry, crumpled in the pocket of his dress pants. At first I thought nothing of it. David was always terrible about emptying his pockets. But then I looked closer. It was from a steakhouse, the kind of place we only went for special occasions. 4 entrees, 2 desserts, and a bottle of wine. But that was strange. He'd been on a solo trip that weekend. Just him. No partners, no clients, at least not that he mentioned. When I asked, he didn't even blink. "Client dinner," he said smoothly, pulling me into a quick hug as if the warmth of his arms could erase the doubt in my chest. "Big account." I didn't want to bore you with the details. And for a moment, I let myself believe him. Why wouldn't I? He had an answer, and it sounded reasonable enough. But late that night, as I folded laundry in silence, the questions kept circling. Why hadn't he told me about the dinner before? Why hide the receipt? Why did the total feel more like family dining than business talk? I told myself I was overthinking. That's what wives do when they get tired, right? Spin stories out of nothing. I almost convinced myself that was true. Almost. When I finally confided in my best friend, she didn't brush it off the way I hoped. She tilted her head and looked at me with a seriousness that made my stomach twist. "Emily," she said quietly, "if you feel uneasy, there's a reason. Trust that." Her words lodged themselves in my mind like a splinter. I tried to ignore them, but they kept catching on everything. The truth is, David didn't need to gaslight me. I was already doing it to myself. I tried to let the receipt go, but it gnawed at me. Soon, every business trip became a question mark I couldn't erase. So I started digging. At first, it was little things, scrolling through phone records, noticing numbers I didn't recognize. I called one late at night, heart pounding, but hung up as soon as a woman's voice answered. I told myself I was crazy, that I was turning into the jealous wife I never wanted to be. But then came the hotel calls. I rang the front desk of the place he swore he was staying at. No reservation under his name, not that weekend, not the one before either. That's when my stomach turned cold. I told myself I just needed to know once and for all. So one Friday afternoon, when he kissed me goodbye and said he was catching a flight, I got in my car and followed him. I expected the airport. Instead, he drove straight past the exit like it wasn't even there. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I trailed him farther out of town, past fields and strip malls, into quiet suburbs I'd never been to. Finally, he turned down a tree-lined street and pulled into the driveway of a pale blue house. I parked half a block away, heart thundering. The front door opened and a woman stepped out. Casual clothes, hair tied back, smiling as if she'd been waiting all week for him. Then the children ran out, 2 of them, calling his name, arms outstretched. "Daddy!" And he scooped them up, kissed their cheeks, laughed in that unguarded way he hadn't with me in years. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, because in that moment I understood. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't some fling he was hiding. David didn't just cheat. He had a second family. And everything I thought I knew about my marriage cracked into pieces too sharp to hold. That night I couldn't keep the words in anymore. My voice shook as I asked the simplest question I could manage. "David, are you hiding something from me?" He didn't flinch, didn't blink. Instead, he leaned back in his chair with a sigh, like I'd just accused him of murder. "Emily, you're paranoid. You've been stressed, overworked, you're imagining things that aren't there." I tried again, gentler this time, but he cut me off with a shake of his head. "You're insecure. That's what this is. I've been working my ass off to give you and the kids a good life. And this is what I get? Accusations?" The words stung because they sounded reasonable, the way lies always do when they're dressed as truth. And before long, he had others believing them too. When I confided in his sister, she gave me a pitying look. "Emily, you're just tired. He's under a lot of pressure. Don't push him away with suspicion." Friends echoed the same line. "He loves you. Stop being dramatic." So I kept quiet, at least out loud. Inside, the questions only grew louder. While David painted me as unstable, I gathered proof. Quietly. I saved receipts, screenshots of texts that didn't add up, notes of dates and times when his story slipped. Every breadcrumb I collected felt like a nail in the coffin of the life we'd built. But the more I uncovered, the more trapped I felt. Because evidence is useless if no one believes you. And the man I loved had already rewritten the story, casting himself as the hardworking husband and me as the paranoid wife. I wasn't just losing my marriage. I was losing my grip on the version of reality everyone else believed. Eventually, the weight of my own evidence became unbearable. One evening, after the kids were asleep, I laid it all out on the kitchen table. Receipts, hotel records, screenshots, and finally, the shaky video I'd taken from my car, showing him walking into that pale blue house, children running into his arms. When David walked in and saw it spread out before him, his face drained of color. For a moment, he didn't say a word. Then, slowly, the mask he'd worn for years slipped. "You followed me," he said flatly. Not angry, just resigned. I swallowed hard. "You lied to me, over and over. Who are they, David? Who is she?" His jaw tightened, but there was no denial this time. "They're my family, too." The words hit harder than any scream could have. I shook my head in disbelief. "Family? You already have a family." His voice cracked, but his eyes stayed cold. "I love them, Emily. Not the way you think. It's not just an affair. It's different. They need me. And so do you. I can be both. I am both. I stared at him, speechless. The man I thought I married wasn't confessing to cheating. He was confessing to a double life. 2 homes, 2 women, 2 sets of children, and in his mind, it wasn't betrayal. It was love, twisted, divided, but real to him. That night, I realized I wasn't competing with another woman. I was competing with another family. And no matter what he claimed, one of us was always going to lose. After his confession, I couldn't stop myself. I needed to hear it from her, to see her reaction, to know if she was another victim like me, or part of the lie. I found her number through the phone records I'd collected and sent a message. "We need to talk. I'm David's wife." My hands shook as I hit send. She replied almost instantly. "I know." The words blurred on the screen. I called her, desperate for clarity, and what I heard made my stomach twist. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't even angry. She was calm, almost resigned. "Yes," she said. "I know about you. I always have. But he told me you were temporary. He said he was staying with you until the time was right. He promised me he'd leave eventually." I felt the floor drop out from under me. This wasn't a love triangle. This wasn't a secret affair. She knew. She chose it. And in that moment, I realized the depth of the betrayal wasn't just David's. It was hers too. Because while I was busy fighting to hold my marriage together, she was waiting patiently in the wings, confident that eventually he'd choose her. I thought I was the wife, the anchor, the one with the real claim. But hearing her speak so casually, so assured of her place in his life, I understood the truth. I'd already been replaced. David hadn't been building 2 families. He'd been phasing one out. And the cruelest part? I was the one scheduled to disappear. In the end, I realized I wasn't wrong for trusting my husband. Trust is what marriage is built on. What I was wrong about was ignoring my instincts, the quiet voice that told me something was off long before the evidence piled up. I spent years explaining away the unease, convincing myself that love meant patience, that doubt was disloyalty. But the truth is, silence only protected him. It never protected me. When the lies finally unraveled, it wasn't just my marriage that ended. It was the story I'd told myself about our life together. Every memory, every trip, every anniversary. Suddenly I had to wonder who he was with the night before, or what promises he'd made to someone else. Some truths don't just break a marriage, they rewrite every memory you thought was safe. He thought I was paranoid. I was just late to the truth. I lost my husband to another family, but what I really lost was the illusion of who he was. And now, when people look at me with pity in their eyes, I remind myself, I wasn't crazy. I was right, just not soon enough to save us.